What is up, Planeswalkers? Theoric 6 back with some more Magic the Gathering Arena. Today we're going to be finishing out the first 5 of the new player decks with green. So as usual, I'm going to go ahead and showcase the base version. This is what you get right out of the box. And I'm going to showcase the consistent version. The consistent version essentially is I just wanted to make sure I had as many 4 and 3-ofs as I logically could without actually adding anything to the deck. And then finally we will go over my personal upgrades. So this was another, just like the black one, another deck that essentially is very easy to upgrade into a pretty powerful current deck. The black one was zombies, this one essentially is just a mono green stompy, right? And the focus of this deck is to try and ramp to about the mid-late game, about 4 and 5, to put out these very, very large creatures and just hit your opponent's face several times. And it does that relatively well. So we do have a ramp package with some Llanowar Elves, Druid of the Cowl, and Elvish Rejuvenator. These will help us get to our mid and late game cards. We have Nature's Way and Rabid Bite. So the reason we're running a 2-2 split instead of just having 4 Rabid Bites is that Nature's Way is a better card. Unfortunately, it's going to be rotating because it's a part of Kaladesh. So this is going to have to be replaced with Rabid Bite in the near future. But for right now, it does the exact same thing as Rabid Bite for the exact same mana, except it also gives Vigilance and Trample to one of our very large creatures. Trample in this deck is very important because we're running Blanchwood Armor. Now, Blanchwood Armor gives our creatures extra power for all of our forests. We have 20 forests. Usually it's going to be giving, at the minimum, like 4 or 5. We are running some deserts, and that does detract a little bit from the power of Blanchwood Armor. However, we're only running 4 out of 24, so it's not actually going to be that much of a hindrance, and Blanchwood Armor is just a great way to make our giant creatures even larger. We're running Thrashing Brontodon. We essentially put this card in instead of Centaur Coursers because it's just better. It also isn't rotating. Since we are a mono green deck, the 2 pips of green don't actually matter too much, and this not only gives us 1 additional point of toughness, but we also are able to have utility and be able to destroy artifacts or enchantments. Very, very important to be able to have just incremental value there when it's also just kind of a fine card. Baloth Gorger is essentially replacing the Bristling Boar, and the reason for this is that Bristling Boar does have a pseudo-evasion type thing. However, this is by itself stronger, even though it does have 2 more pips, and if we are flooding out and we're in top deck mode, this can come down larger than a Bristling Boar. This can come down as a 7/7 for 8, whereas Bristling Boar will always just be that 4/3. Vinemare is one of the cards that I just added because Vinemare is a stupidly good card. It's just good. Since it has hexproof, your red opponent can't like lightning strike it, which means you can make really good blocks against the red deck. It can be blocked by black creatures, so if you're up against some sort of black deck, you can just murder them. It has that type of pseudo evasion, so if you're able to put something like a Blanchwood Armor on it, and it becomes like a 10 something, right? You're going to be able to just keep hitting your opponent, and they can't do much about it. Their removal won't work, and they can't block as long as their creatures are black. It's a very strong card, and I definitely suggest checking it out. We're running Arborback Stompers instead of the Vigilant Baloths, and the reason for this essentially is I like Trample in this deck better than the Vigilance, and we're losing 1 point of toughness for a life gain of 5. So what I found with this deck is that I was running into a lot, like red aggro isn't much of a problem at all. Our creatures are going to be able to be bigger than them at a faster pace than they can put them out. But recently, and I'm cursing you, Merchant, because you I think are adding to this, a lot of mono white weenie has been running around, and they just play a bunch of one drops. And you might think it would be very similar to red, except they just play a bunch of 1-drops, and they go too wide, and we end up dying really quickly. So I found we needed a little bit more life so that we can stabilize against these super aggressive white decks, and Arborback Stomper was a fantastic way to do that. We are running the single Gigantosaur that the deck comes with. I haven't, because it's a 1-of, I haven't seen it enough for me to be able to know that it's awesome. I would focus your efforts on crafting for Ghalta before Gigantosaurus, but I think Gigantosaurus is still good. I think it still sees play in the actual mono green decks. we're running an Aggressive Mammoth, pretty much the same as Gigantosaur, except this one gives our creatures trample, which is very, very important. Blanchwood Armor, as we saw, doesn't give them trample, so we can just have like a really, really large guy that's just not doing anything. It's just getting chumped by our opponents. And Aggressive Mammoth helps us with that. Prodigious Growth is another thing that gives trample. This would probably be taken out for Ghaltas and Aggressive Mammoths, but for right now, if you have like a Vine Mare on the field, and you're like, well, I don't have Lethal yet, top deck Prodigious Growth, and you're like, oh, you died now. It's a very, very strong card. And Ghalta, of course, is just madness. If you're able to like turn 1 Llanowar Elves into turn 2 Brontodon into a turn 2 Vine Mare, you already have I can do math for 9 power out, and that takes this to 3 mana, which means you can play it on your next turn. That's very, very good to have a 12/12 Trampler on turn 4. Yeah. So Ghalta is a very strong card. And it has trample like innately, which is just madness. So I definitely suggest crafting your rares for this card. I'm not actually sure there are any mythics that you need in this deck, which is very great. Some of the other decks I've showcased would be better with mythics, but this one, if you have some rares, craft some Ghaltas, maybe craft a few more Gigantosaurs and Aggressive Mammoths, and you're like at a real deck. It's a very strong card, very strong deck out of the box, very similar to the white deck and the black deck. We are running, of course, some Desert of the Indomitables. This is just to make sure that if we are flooding out, because we do have a lot of mana dorks, that we're able to cycle these away into some actual gas. And a couple of Haship Oasis, just to push through a little bit more damage, even though we probably aren't going to need it that often. Let me just make sure. Yeah, pretty much everything in this deck is very solid by itself. Even the fact that this is a 1/3 allows us to stem the tide a little bit against those aggressive decks, unless, of course, they just go super wide and we can't do anything about it. But yeah, so I'm now going to talk a little bit about why I removed some cards. So things like Verdant Rebirth and Plummet, those are cards that I could maybe see putting in the sideboard, but you just don't need them if you're going to be playing in best of 1 formats. Plummet, excuse me, I should totally put them on the board, on screen. Where are you, Plummet? Come back here. Anyway, Plummet is a card that is very, very situational. There are a lot of popular flyers right now. Even in the white deck, you have the 1 mana 2/1 that has Ascend to fly. There's a bunch of dragons running around. There's angels running around. However, not every deck you're going to come across this. So having Nature's Way and Rabid Bite being a more ubiquitous removal is very important. Verdant Rebirth essentially just does nothing. It blanks removal, but if you're just going to be playing large creatures anyway, it doesn't matter too much. Very similar to Titanic Growth. It can win games out of nowhere. However, we would rather just have permanent buffs on our creatures, which is why we're maximizing Blanchwood Armors and not really caring too much about Titanic Growth. We got rid of Meteor Golem because Thrashing Brontodon is essentially just a better version of it. It can get rid of most things that we care about, and creatures we can just get rid of with Nature's Way. Very short deck tech this time, because once again, like the whites, actually more like the black deck, a lot of the cards base were pretty strong, and all we did was just add some more individually strong cards. So yeah, let's get into it. The deck has been doing relatively well for me. As I said, it does fold a little bit to the white deck if they have like a god hand. But going up against Loopy Chicken Fanny, I will say, since this deck is like an actual good deck, I did expect to see a few more like higher ranked decks. Unfortunately, even though we do have some nice ramp here, this will not only come into play tapped, but we aren't guaranteed another land, so we're going to mulligan. Let's see what our opponent would like to do. And it looks like they kept. This is a slower hand, but it's still fine. We have Rejuvenator. We have some removal and some buffs. We'll keep this. And we're going to actually put this on the bottom because we do want to draw some form of gas, and we'll play this first, just so we don't have to deal with it coming in tap later. Looks like our opponent might be on the same deck. Unfortunately, they had their turn with Llanowar Elves. Let's see if they can capitalize on it by playing... Ooh, interesting. That's definitely a card that I did not think about. initially. So this is a card that actually does help the green creatures out a little bit by giving you some extra card draw once you get in the late game. It's pretty good. My only issue with it is that it does technically slow you down. This is another good card to have in the green deck, but it is not necessary at all. Don't play this. I think here I'm going to play the Arborback Stomper, and I can trade 1 for 1. The only problem is if my opponent has their own Nature's Way, then my Stomper just kind of dies. But the reason we want to do this is because if we draw another land, we'll be on 6, so we can Baloth, Gorger, and Nature's Way them. So that's why we want to be as mana efficient as we can here. So let's see if our opponent does have some removal, and they keep scrying to the top, and that's not really what we want to see, because that means they keep getting good cards. Ah, Ripjaw Raptor. This is a card that I've seen some people play. This isn't really the big end stoppy deck. I assume that these people aren't playing the Mammoths or the Gigantosaurus. This does seem to be the more mid-level version. And they decide not to attack. That is totally fine. Here, what I think I'm going to do is Blanchwood this up. And Nature's Way. It's very efficient on our mana. We don't get the Llanowar Elves, which is kind of a bummer, but I think it's fine. We get to destroy probably the Ripjaw Raptor, just because we don't want them getting multiple enrage triggers. And we get to essentially attack for free, because this will have 3 more toughness. It'll be at 7, yeah. So that's what we're going to do. Then tap this for colorless. So this is one of those scenarios where if these were forests, right, this would be even larger. But it's not too big of a deal. And the fact that this is, let's see, target creature I control, target creature they control, and this gives vigilance and trample. I mean, this one already had trample, but it does give the vigilance. So we are able to attack and still be on the defense. Do not all attack. Elf, you are just there. All right, and we already put them down to 12. So hopefully we're going to be able to ride this single card to victory. We can buff it up next turn to 11 power and really threaten our opponent's life. Let's see what they play here. The problem is they're going to, since they have this card, they're going to be able to... That's interesting. Oh, I think he's going to fight now. So yeah, he was able to get it up. Oh, okay, no, he's... Oh wait, yeah, that makes it fight. Okay, so it's just trading here. Because this is an actual fight. Yeah. So that's fine. Let's see if he decides to pay for it. Yep, not really a reason not to. And this is what I was saying. This does allow him to maintain value on the board. This would be several turns until I'm able to get it. So let's just play them both, I think. Let's see. I have 7 total mana. So if I draw a land next turn, I'll be able to play this for 7. And that might just be better than just playing it now. So I'm actually just going to wait a turn. And I'll attack here. I'll offer the trade. Excuse me, what? I just said end turn. That's very strange. It's fine. Our opponent took damage. That was weird. But they scryed at the bottom, so they might be looking for something. Vizier of the Menagerie. So yeah, this definitely is the kind of more mid-rangey version. Chandler Initiate, interesting. So opponent can choose to just kill one of these off, and it looks like that's what they're doing. Yep. Rabid Bite is okay. Oh, that thing happened where the animations wonked. So unfortunately we were unable to do this, but we really want to be able to Rabid Bite that. Oh, right. Target this, target this. Just so my opponent is not able to get value out of that card. Not really a reason to attack here, unfortunately. But it does look like, unless we draw something very good, their Lifecrafter's Bestiary is probably going to get us here. Yep, and another Ripjaw Raptor. So yeah, this version of the deck is very strong if we don't have like Ghalta really early, and because we're only running a single one, yep, we're not able to get Ghalta, and they're able to just keep getting value. So we did get another Stomper. That's very good. So we're not out of the game just yet. Unfortunately, if our opponent just plays another Nature's thing, and they scratch at the top, which means they might, we could just see our Stomper die. Nope, but they did play Ghalta. And you can just see the power of Lifecrafter's bestiary here. I think that might have been a misplay on our opponent's part. I think they might have thought... if I get Prodigious Growth, that's 7 to it, it'd be a 12, 11. So I'd be able to trade with Ghalta, which isn't great. But I don't think I need a block here. I'm at a decent enough life total that trading for this isn't spectacular. Unfortunately, I think we aren't just going. I think just we aren't going to be able to beat the Lifecrafter's bestiary, so we're going to go ahead and bow out here, and that's totally fine. Our deck is less powerful, just because we just aren't running as many rares. And that's not to say decks without rares can't do well. I've said several times that super aggressive decks are pretty easy to make strong, but this one is actually not as aggressive as some of the other ones, going up against Koltamos. Yeah, so since this deck is a little bit more mid to late game oriented, we can just get outvalued by our more rare contemporaries. So this one doesn't have ramp, but it does have 2 removal spells and 2 good 4-drops. So this is not a good hand. However, like I've said in the past, this is a better 7 than like your average 6, so we'll keep it. See what our opponent decides to do here, making that mulligan decision, and they decide to keep. Let's go ahead and play our forest and see if we aren't able to get a win. Alright, looks like they're on red-green something here. We have our 4th land, so we'll at least be able to play something on turn 4, but if we don't draw something sooner, it might be bad. Depending on what exactly our opponent is on, and they play another tap land into an elf. That's totally fine. Looks like they're probably going to be on like dinosaurs or something. And we keep drawing lands. I would even say Lifecrafter's bestiary might be better than Elvish Rejuvenator. Looks like this is a dragon deck. And we're going to go ahead and play Vinemare first. The reason for this is that it has hexproof. So we might be able to get away with playing Nature's Way next turn on a dragon that they decide to play. It also means that it can't die to something like Glorybringer. Yeah. So we can go ahead and kill that Glorybringer with a Rabid Bite and attack them. We are just going to play this tapped because we know that we'd be using 2 mana, so we do have 2 left. 3 left doesn't allow us to play anything, so we are just going to... Actually, we could cycle this. Since we know we're going to have the 5th mana next turn, we could just cycle this. I think here we do want to use Rabid Bite, because we don't need the trample. Our opponent could block with Llanowar Elves, but I think that's fine. So yeah, let's go ahead and do this. And I think I will cycle this instead. I almost hit pass turn. I need to attack. Alright, get through for 5. I actually should have cycled this before, because I could have played a Llanowar Elf. I don't think it would have necessarily mattered. But I could have gotten a Llanowar Elf. It looks like they might just be attacking. Oh, no, they decided not to. Interesting. So either they don't have anything, or they have something very specific. And I got another removal spell, which is very good. Up here, so part of me just wants to play the Arborback Stomper to gain more life. But I think it is better to just Nature's Way down that Draconic Disciple. This way they can't actually block me very well. Sure. I didn't realize he had that much mana. So do I now want to... So I should have absolutely read that card. But do I now want to Nature's Way this? I could just attack and offer the trade. And then play Baloth Gorger. And then I can potentially Stomper Nature's Way next turn. My only qualms about that is the fact that this has hexproof. So it's harder for my opponent to deal with. But I think I will just offer the trade here. It looks like he decides to block, sure. Oh no, he decides not to. Very interesting. Yeah, I'm just gonna wait. Save my stuff. Add to the board a little bit more. Let's see what my opponent has. Demanding Dragon. I think I'm just gonna take the 5. Yeah. Because I have oh right, decline. Because I have the Arborback Stomper, I think taking the 5 there is fine. And I can just go ahead and... I really actually want to draw land here, so I can play Stomper and Nature's Way. Sure, that's fine. Didn't draw land, very unfortunate. I do want to... Maybe I should have got rid of this. I think I'm going to Nature's Way. This and this. And I can play Druid. And since this has Vigilance, I can go and attack with it. Actually, could have attacked with this. But I think it's fine not attacking with it, just to make sure I have blockers for these. Because this is definitely getting through. Yeah. So hopefully my opponent doesn't have exactly a burn spell. But yeah, so I needed to make sure I had blocked for these. And my opponent might have a... Okay, cool. My opponent didn't have anything. We were able to make good decisions in order to get there. And you have to make sure you recognize that your life is a resource, and that you do not always need to sack a creature. I think in the long term, if we had sacked a creature, we would have been in a rough spot. Going against Zenticle? Zenticle? Going first a lot, very nice. Once again, we don't have a ton going on. But we do have the Arborback Stomper, which will allow us to kind of get back into it if we do drop low. And the Blanchwood Arbors do mean that we'll have potentially large creatures. Once again, I think this is probably better than your average 6. So for that reason, we're going to go and keep it. We are going first, which mitigates a little bit the slowness of our hand. Yeah. Of course, we don't have as many 2-drop cards as the base deck did. It also had things like Highland Game, and some Vigilant Elf, whose name I don't even recall. And those cards are fine. But the reason... Oh, that's nice. We'll have a 3-drop. But the reason we take those cards out is just because we want to maximize our mid-game threats. Obviously, if you are finding you're dying too quickly, I would suggest putting Highland Game back in the deck. This looks like it's going to be the Lifegain type deck. So go ahead and play this. And potentially, if we don't draw land, we just Blanchwood up. And we'll have a nice 6-7. It's absolutely not terrible. Let's see what our opponent has here. Ooh, and the cast down. Very unfortunate. So this is very much why we would like to get Vine Mare, because it can't be killed by cast down. Or any other removal for that matter. Let me go to Famished Paladin. Oh, okay. So I think this is actually like a combo deck thing. How do you gain life? Untap it. I'm a little scared. Which means that the Thrashing Bronodon dying was actually like even more important. So I need to like kill my opponent quickly, but I don't know if I can do that because this doesn't have trample. So I think actually what I want to do is get down Druid of the Cowl so I can get Arborback Stomper down so that I can have something with Trample to put the Blanchwood Armors on so that I can kill my opponent. I am a little worried that they're going to... Okay, sure. This might not be the Words Are Hard combo deck. However, it is just staying untapped because it has lifelink. Okay, let's see. So I have 6 mana. I'm just going to Stomper here. No attacks. So next turn I will be able to... If I draw land, I can double Blanchwood Armor on this and hopefully race my opponent a little bit better. Ooh, Regal Bloodlord? Sure, sure. This is gonna smarts. Ow. It makes a bet. Got a Vine Mare. Thing is, Vine Mare doesn't have trample. I think I'm gonna put this on here. I think I'm gonna race my opponent. The problem with that is they have another cast down. Like, I get utterly blown out. But I want my opponent to die. So they can block, right? But right, so they're at 16. They're gonna gain at least 5 this turn. Ugh. This might not go well. What did I decide to attack? Am I dead? No, I'm not dead. And he makes another bat. Sure, sure. So I have another Arborback Stomper, which helps. And I got another land. Let's see, 5, 6, 7. So if I want to play this first. 1, it keeps these untapped, and 2, gains me life, so I don't just die. Yeah, so my opponent had that anyway, so that is unfortunate. I do suspect that I'm going to lose this game, even with potentially Vine Mare and Baloth Gorger, but opponent had that really early kill on the Brontodon, which would have helped me. So what's happening here is this card doesn't untap normally, but when it gains life, you untap. And the enchantment that they have gives it lifelink, so it just gains a life and untaps itself, essentially. It also gives it vigilance, I think. Yeah, so it doesn't actually matter, but I do think that I am... So Thrashing Brontodon helps... No, Thrashing Brontodon would have helped if I got it early. However, he just has flyers that I can't deal with. Now, you might be thinking, right, seeing this scenario, I have a loss, I'm going to concede soon, but you might be thinking that in this scenario, it's a good reason to have Plummet. However, if you look at the other games that we played, even the Dragon one, we were able to be fine with just our natural removal. If you really are struggling against flyers, bring in Plummet, but I would just definitely suggest not running more than 2, because even if we're able to kill, like, either of these, still have a lot of other things to deal with. So. Yeah, I mean, this is a fine deck, kind of base, but you can definitely upgrade it with a few more rares. Luckily, you don't really need mythics, or unluckily, because mythics seem to be a little easier to come by, or at least they get used less frequently. Double upped on the mythics, alright. I'm at 4. And a redo. Alright. Well, I hope you guys liked that video. If you did, I would like you to tap that like button, add a subscription to your mana pool, and cast one of those comments in the comment section down below. I'd like to thank Easy Mode, Chris, Dizzy Fam, Daniel, Flower Child, and Chow83, I can speak words correctly, for supporting me and this channel over on Patreon. If you would like to help them help me and the channel, go ahead and find the link to the Patreon down in the description below. I will be doing some modifications and incorporating my currently in the works Discord server thing. Yeah, it'd be really good. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed, and until next time, all will be one.